Hey, thanks for making it to Veterans Info Tap. I'm glad you made it. Huge back pay opportunities here. This is a massive, massive deal. There's actually two things that are leading to this discussion. One is the Oath Act, which I'm going to talk about, and then also the Taylor versus the VA decision that recently came out. So I'm going to bring that up as well and kind of talk through this. Before we do, though, want to throw on a special thank you to JumpDude55. JumpDude55, hey, thank you so very much for the super comment, super chat. I truly do appreciate your support very much. Now, before we jump into it, I'm just going to give you kind of an overview here of what we're going to do. I'm going to talk about the Oath Act, which is the obligations. What is it? It's the Obligations to Aberdeen's Trusted Heroes Act. I'm going to talk about that. I'm also going to talk about the Taylor versus the VA secretary at the time, McDonough. So Taylor versus McDonough, and that outcome, which leads to more back pay, potentially all the way back to the day after your discharge. That is huge. Now, I reached out to the Washington, D.C. office it was Senator Blumenthal, who's the ranking member on the Senate Veterans Affairs Committee, his office, because he's the one that introduced the Oath Act last year, and there was some discussion about invigorating that movement and reintroducing it this cycle for Congress. So I'm going to start with what the answer was there. Then I'm going to get into the Taylor versus McDonough. Then I'm going to get into the Oath Act. So I'm pulling up the email here that I got back from the D.C. office here. And this is the communication from that office. Hi, Jason. Thanks for reaching out about the Oath Act. I'm Senator Blumenthal's policy advisor on VA disability compensation. We will reintroduce the Oath Act, but don't have a timeline yet. We're still determining how to account for VA's implementation of the Taylor decision regarding disability compensation from veterans who were subject to secrecy agreements. He said happy to chat about it and so forth, and that basically ends the email there. So you might ask yourself, what is the Taylor versus McDonough case? I'm going to read you just a little snapshot on that. Please hit the thumbs up, subscribe, share with a friend, all that good stuff. I truly appreciate it. Every thumbs up and every minute watched really does support the channel, helps to push this information into the hands of those that need it. And if you want to support the channel in other ways, consider being a member. Thank you so much to all you members. I do my best to get back to you in the comments. The two real asks are, look, hit the thumbs up, let the video run. That tells YouTube to send it to more. All right, so in the Taylor versus McDonough case, the Federal Circuit ruled in favor of Mr. Taylor, finding that the government violated his constitutional right to due process by denying him access to the VA adjudication system for disability benefits due to a secrecy agreement, and that he is entitled to benefits retroactive to the date he would have received them had the government not interfered. Well, when is that date? Well, that date is the day after discharge, because if you file a claim for disability compensation within 1 year from your date of discharge, you are back paid to the day after discharge. So we could potentially be talking about a tremendous amount of money here. The only thing that gets into this type of world with back pay would be NEMR claims for those Vietnam era folks out there. Now, let's jump over to the Oath Act and talk about this a little bit, and with the idea of this being reintroduced at some point after they figure out how the VA is going to implement this. This is an important piece of the pie. I have seen this way too many times. So this bill would make it easier for veterans who signed secrecy oaths for covert ops to obtain back benefits. All right? Veterans who signed secrecy oaths that kept them from disclosing to doctors or anyone else the nature of injuries connected to covert operations could seek benefits retroactive to their discharge date. Again, let it be the day after their discharge, under a bill that was in Congress last year, looking to be reintroduced this year, which is the Obligation to Aberdeen's Trusted Heroes Act, or the Oath Act. This would lift a mandate that requires veterans to apply for benefits within 1 year of leaving military service to receive compensation dating back to their discharge. So again, it would be lifting that mandate of filing it within 1 year to get that back pay, which would then allow those folks to be able to get back pay all the way back to the day after discharge. Huge numbers. The restriction would be waived for former service members who participated in secrecy oath programs that prevented them from disclosing a mission or seeking benefits or service-connected illnesses or injuries. Sponsored by Senator Richard Blumenthal, the legislation specifically identifies Vietnam-era service members who were human test subjects from the mid-1950s to the early 70s in Army experiments using chemical warfare agents and hallucinogenic drugs. Government-employed scientists, including former Nazi Germany scientists, tested mustard agents, psychedelics, nerve agents, and other dangerous chemicals according to the legislation. Service members in experiments at the former Edgewood Arsenal Aberdeen Proving Ground in Maryland were sworn to secrecy and threatened with court-martial or criminal charges if they violated it. Upon leaving service in the Army, veterans of the program could not seek benefits provided by the Department of Veterans Affairs for disability related to the program without violating their secrecy oaths, according to the legislation. By secrecy oath, the military was referring to any non-disclosure agreement that prevented service members from disclosing or discussing covert missions. After leaving the military, the veterans could not seek compensation for injuries connected to the experiments until the secrecy oath was lifted in 2006, according to the legislation. The bill was introduced in November and referred to the Senate Veterans Affairs Committee. Blumenthal there is the ranking member for that committee. As the incoming top Democrat for the committee, Blumenthal plans to reintroduce the legislation in the new Congress and will continue fighting to ensure Edgewood veterans receive full benefits, his office said. And again, I just read you the email from his policy advisor as well. So it goes on here to say, this is a quotation from a veteran. "I was experiencing health problems before the oath was lifted, but was not able to file a claim for compensation," said Army veteran Frank Rochelle, 71 years of age, from North Carolina. "Compensation should not be limited and timed to when the secrecy oath ended because injuries were incurred prior to that," said Rochelle, a former corporal whose service from 68 to 70 included a tour in Vietnam. Vietnam-era service members were considered volunteers in the classified studies by the U.S. Army Chemical Corps. They signed consent agreements prior to participating. But veterans later said they were not fully informed about the nature of the tests or the risks to their health. It goes on here. I'll go ahead and just kind of continue on. "We have boxes and boxes of papers we've collected over the years about the testing, but we've got nothing when we filed claims for compensation," said Michelle Josephs, wife and full-time caretaker of 76-year-old Army veteran Tim Josephs, another Edgewood participant. "We were told it was informed consent. Tim and others had volunteered, but these were a bunch of 18 and 19-year-old guys who had no idea the government would give them things that were harmful to them. We fought for years for benefits and then we finally gave up," she said. "Because the statute governing veterans benefits requires veterans to apply within 1 year of discharge to receive retroactive benefits, veterans of the program were only eligible for benefits beginning from the date of their disability application, according to the legislation." And for those that don't hear what's happening there, If you file again within 1 year of getting out of the military, file your claim, you can get retroactive to your day after discharge. If you wait 7 years, 10 years, 30 years, and you file a claim, it's only going to backdate to the date of your intent to file or your claim, typically. So Rochelle took part in the military studies in '68 at the former Edgewood Arsenal, where he received drugs orally and by injection. I never knew what they were giving me, he said. I pretty much lost consciousness after 10 minutes. I was delirious for about 2 days. All I remember is breathing in this one inhalation. The chronic medical problems that Rochelle developed after experiments made him unemployable, according to VA records. Rochelle obtained his military records in 2001 and found he was administered a chemical known by the code name CAR 302668. The drug was described as a deliriant drug, developed in the 1960s and tested at Edgewood. He also learned from medical records that he received a drug called EA2233, a high-potency synthetic form of THC, a psychoactive ingredient found in cannabis. Rochelle said he developed significant problems with his concentration and memory after receiving the drug. In my VA files, my medical problems are documented as due to the Edgewood experiments, he said Rochelle, who is 100% disabled. He is now seeking disability compensation dating back to his discharge in 1970, and he continues to have respiratory problems that doctors determined were related to aerosol sprays that he and other service members inhaled through a mask. Rochelle also has a diagnosis for PTSD connected to his service at Edgewood. His case is on appeal before the U.S. Veterans Court of Appeals, which ordered retroactive compensation in 2024 in 3 other cases involving Edgewood veterans. By complying with their secrecy oaths, the veterans of the program lost the ability to receive the full veterans benefits they earned, the legislation said. The legislation would require no later than 3 months after the secrecy oath is lifted, the military must identify and notify affected veterans about their ability to apply for full retroactive benefits retroactive to their date of discharge. Veterans of the oaths of other secrecy oath programs may face the same hurdles to obtain benefits, while some veterans of secrecy oath programs received limited reliefs in the courts. There is uncertainty about the scope of benefits available to those veterans, according to the legislation. A 2023 ruling in the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit in Washington enabled service members who volunteered at Edgewood to obtain VA disability compensation retroactive to their date of discharge, potentially affecting 3,000 to 5,000 veterans believed to be alive. If signed into law, the Oath Act would codify this decision for Edgewood veterans, allowing them to avoid litigation and inconsistent outcomes between cases, and enable veterans who served in other secrecy oath programs to backdate their benefits. Mark Jones, an attorney who represents several Edgewood veterans in cases seeking compensation, said the VA states publicly it has a process in place to handle claims for earlier effective dates, but the Edgewood veterans' requests continue to be denied, he said. They are telling the veterans in decision letters that they do not have such a process in place, Jones said. I have the paperwork to support the fact that the VA is lying. Tim Josephs, a former Army sergeant, was given a cocktail of drugs that caused him to hallucinate and experience tremors when he served as a human test subject at Edgewood for 3 months in 1968. Neurological problems, including depression, nightmares, and extreme anxiety, persisted in the decades following military service, said Michelle Joseph, speaking for her husband, who was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease 20 years ago. The medical condition limits his ability to have conversations. Michelle Joseph said she did not learn about the experiments from her husband until the couple received a phone call several years after his discharge in '69 from the military. The person identified himself as a federal government employee with questions about his participation in the studies, she said. We had just gotten married and I was a nursing student. Someone from the government called. Tim did not ever call them back because he was so disgusted that he didn't trust them. I said, "What is this about?" she recalled. That's when he told me about the experiments. The couple later obtained his military health records, and oh, by the way, if you need yours, SF-180, Standard Form 180, you can order your records. That included information about participation in the Edgewood studies. Michelle Josephs said her husband was administered nerve agents and antidotes to them. Tim Josephs pursued disability claims with the VA but was denied. We've had a lot of expenses over the years. At one point, his medications were $3,000 a month, she said. He got so worked up over this, and then nothing happens. We're demoralized. And that concludes it. So just wanted to bring you guys up to speed with a couple really big moving pieces that could result in huge back pays. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you. Have a great one. And remember, if we don't take care of each other, something went wrong.